Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Rodman Schley, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we'd love to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today. And then we want to talk about these two new books that you just came out with, and also the things that you're doing to help people, because you really are inspiring and motivating people, man. Thanks for being here.
No, this is great. You're asking me to go back a long time there, Mike, I'm telling you. But I will say this. I was born out in California. So my parents were teachers. They were educators when I was young, and they didn't want to raise their kid in Los Angeles. So they picked us up. We moved, I think I was age 2. They moved us from California, that LA area, to Nebraska, to central Nebraska. So I went from the potential of surfing on the weekends to cow tipping, I guess you might say.
Did you know there's more head of cattle in Nebraska than there are people?
Oh, that does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. They've got their Memorial Stadium where their college football team plays.
Yep.
And on game day, that's like the second largest city in the third. Okay.
Yeah. My son just graduated from there.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Nebraska is a great place to grow up.
Great place. Yeah, it really is. Really. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So you lived there till when?
I lived in Nebraska till I graduated high school when I was 18. Ended up in Denver, Colorado. Love Colorado. Love the Denver area. Beautiful place to live. Good place to start businesses. And I'm an entrepreneur at heart through and through. And so for me, this is a great place where I could grow my businesses, have great friends, have great recreation, because I love to work hard, but I also love to play hard and to raise my family.
That's cool, man. I love that. So growing up in Nebraska, what was your favorite thing about growing up there, other than the cow tipping?
It's probably the people. I mean, the people in Nebraska were so wholesome and generous and just good people. Even the sporting events. I always tell people how when I was growing up, my dad used to take me to those Nebraska games each weekend. And back in the day when I was growing up, I mean, we ruled all the time. I mean, we hardly ever lost. And we'd always go in, and my dad would always tell me I'd want to go down and high five our players as they were coming off the field and say, great game. But he would always make me go over to the visitors' locker room where they came off the field and make me stand there and thank them for coming out to play each game. And so I would go there, and I wasn't the only kid down there. It was a line of kids whose parents had sent them down there to thank the other team for coming in. And that's just kind of how they roll there. It's just a very sportsmanlike atmosphere, a very generous atmosphere of just really solid, good people. And I really like that about growing up in Nebraska.
Yeah, my son could not have picked a better place to attend college. They basically threw their arms open and gave him a big hug for 4.5 years. I mean, they fed him, they just took care of him. It was like an extended family, and they're some of the best people on the planet. I'm big fan of the people in Nebraska. So growing up in Nebraska, who was the most influential person to you?
I'd have to say it's probably my grandfather.
Yeah.
Growing up, and I was an entrepreneur at an early age. I found it early, kind of I don't want to say by chance. I just kind of found my love for it. But my grandfather was one of those guys who had a hardware store in small town Nebraska. As a coast to coast hardware store. I don't even know if you remember those old stores like that. But he had this hardware store, and he got up, and that was his entrepreneur outlet. His entrepreneurial journey went through that hardware store. And, I saw him struggle. I saw him succeed. I saw him work hard. I saw him love what he did. And just kind of watching that, it really fed into my entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Girls, yeah. Other than girls. I was one of those guys. I really enjoyed psychology.
Yeah.
And the reason I liked it is because I love human behavior. I love understanding who people are and why they're that way. I like to study myself to still try to figure out who I am and why do I behave the way I do at times. But psychology is one of those things where you could really get deep, really get into some thought, really get an understanding of why people are what they are. And it really translated later into life too, because
Yeah.
if I'm sitting in that meeting or if I'm sitting with somebody who maybe I'm not gelling with or not working with, instead of putting up guards, I can ask the questions, well, I wonder why this is, or maybe we're just not a good fit, or, kind of look at the reasons behind it from a psychological standpoint. So psychology is one of those things that'll last you a lifetime.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Totally agree. Did you have a favorite teacher in high school?
Oh, yes, I sure did. A guy named Doug Phelps. I mean, everybody's got a favorite teacher, right?
Right.
And my favorite teacher was one of those guys in sports, and did my classwork, of course. But I had this guy named Doug Phelps, who was just an incredible mentor on all levels. As a teacher, he was phenomenal. As a coach, he was phenomenal. As a person, he's phenomenal. And my dad was actually my high school principal. And
Oh
I
my
know,
goodness.
I know,
Wow.
I know. But I will say this, if you asked my father who his favorite teacher was coming through his system, he would say the exact same guy.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's awesome. That's awesome. Isn't it amazing how a teacher can have such an impact on your life?
Positively or negatively,
Yeah.
right?
No, true. True.
And
It's
that's
true.
why it's so important. The
Yeah.
people who are leading, especially leading our children and teaching
Yeah.
our kids, we got to have the right people on that bus.
Yeah.
And like every profession, you're not going to hit it out of the park on every single one, but it's such a critical profession for bringing our kids up because
Yeah.
you get to be our age and you start thinking about those people who
Mhm.
are so influential, right? If we had a whole bus full of those folks, boy, think about how good our kids would be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. So in high school, did you have a favorite sport?
Well, I don't know. I did all the sports, but I would have to say I really enjoyed growing up playing football,
Good deal.
and if I could go back and just put those pads on like one more time and go out there and play a little ball, I would absolutely love it. Quite honestly, now though, you can't just pad up anymore. You can go
Yeah.
play a little flag football as an adult, but when I turned 35, my business partner, who was he played hockey at Harvard,
Mhm.
he came to me and said, "Hey, Robin, you need to learn how to play ice hockey." I'm like, "I'm from Nebraska. We had no ice. I've never ice skated. I don't know anything about it."
Mhm.
And about 10 minutes later, I got an email saying that he had signed me up for a beginner course. And, I'm 55 now, so I've been playing ice hockey now for 20 years, and it's
Yeah.
the closest thing to a football workout that I can get.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Good for you. That's a good business partner, man.
He's great.
Gotta love him. Gotta love him. So after high school, where do you go?
Well, I went to Northwest Missouri State, and I was going to play a little football and became a little less interested in football and became a little more interested in girls, unfortunately. Um, so I got into my studies, started there. I graduated from Bellevue University in Omaha, Nebraska. A lot of the stuff that I studied has been entrepreneurship, marketing,
Yeah,
a bit of psychology, really kind of a trifecta of things to prepare me for my entrepreneurial journey. Really appreciative of all the education that I got. And you know this, you get X amount of book knowledge out of college, but your real knowledge and your real trials and errors come when you get out of there and you start
yeah.
getting into the real world, right? That's
True.
where you learn your biggest lessons in life.
No, I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. And you never want to stop learning either, right? So
No.
so after college, after Bellevue, where do you go?
So I started out in Kansas City, Missouri. I went there to get into real estate. I got a real estate broker's license when I was 18. That's how I paid my way through college, was buying and flipping real estate.
Awesome.
And then I decided to go to Kansas City, Missouri, and started buying and flipping homes. I had an incredible mentor. I had somebody who basically he was in his 70s. And so he was buying and flipping his entire life, but he was to that point physically where he couldn't do that work anymore in a home
Mhm.
before he would do the flip. And so he told me, he's like, listen, here's the deal. You come in, I will teach you about buying and flipping real estate. I will put the money into the homes. I will pay for the investment. I
Wow.
will go in there. I will teach you how to do all these different skills that we need to prepare the house for the flip. And then when we're done, we'll list it through you, and then we're going to split the profits. And so I had an immediate partner who was incredible, and he's passed on since. I think he passed on about 5-6 years ago now. But what a wonderful man. I mean, somebody who mentored me, who gave me incredible knowledge, and still even around. I don't do a lot of the work around the house like I used to back when I was young like that. But my wife is still always pretty amazed when she goes, "How do you know how to do that?" It's like, well, I used to call him the old farmer. So it's
Mhm.
just a little trick I got from the old farmer.
Yeah, that's cool, man. What a
Yeah.
great story. So you flipped houses with him for how long?
We flipped houses. That was probably about, well, I'd probably say 1994-ish.
Mhm.
And then I moved out to Colorado in 1998. So we
Okay.
bought and flipped for about 4 years.
Okay.
When I got out to Colorado, there was no buy and flip opportunities. The
Yeah.
the problem was the real estate market was so hot
Yeah.
and so fast, and it was just moving at a whole different pace than what I was used to out in
Mhm.
Kansas City. And so I got more into the valuation side of things. I got into valuation, got into short-term vacation rentals at that
Mhm.
point, and kind of made a little bit of a shift on
Okay.
how I bought and invested in real estate.
So valuations, were you doing broker price opinions?
No, so I am an appraiser
Oh,
by
cool.
trade.
That's cool.
So yeah, I've got a what they call an MAI and an
Yeah.
SRA
Yeah.
designation, and I was also the 2021 national president of the Appraisal Institute.
Oh,
So
cool.
I've been in that profession for a long time, and that's what's so great. A lot of appraisers don't take that knowledge and translate it into investment.
Yeah.
I gained a lot of that knowledge so I could be a really good investor,
Yeah.
because I can go in now and I can look at properties from a methodology and the fundamentals that are required to
Mhm.
really make sure that what we're buying makes sense, that we can
Yeah.
make money, that we can get the returns that we're looking for. Where a lot of people are buying on emotion, I always tell people, get rid of the emotion and
Yeah.
think like an appraiser, and you're
Yeah.
going to make much better deals
Absolutely. That's totally true. So, because emotions what gets you in trouble a lot of times, right?
all the time.
So you're an appraiser in Denver and you start helping people with vacation properties. Talk about that. How did that evolve? And you've been doing that now for a long time. You just wrote a book about it.
Yeah, no, I wrote a book called Vacation Property Secrets. I love it. I've got another place called the Vacation Property Expert
Mhm.
Network.com, where I teach people the fundamentals behind buying short-term vacation rentals. And it all goes back to that thing that I was saying earlier. It's like so many people, when they're, especially with short-term vacation rentals,
Mhm.
they fall in love. They fall in love with that community. They fall in
Yeah.
love with that property. They buy an emotion, and then they wonder why the cash isn't getting high in the wheelbarrow as they're going
Mhm.
to the bank. You know, they're
Yeah.
they're trying to figure out, well, why am I not cash flowing? Why am I
Mhm.
negatively cash flowing? Why, there's all these things that they think about
Mhm.
after they've made the deal.
Right.
And so for me, what's been important is how can I educate folks to understand what happens leading up to the deal,
Before. Yeah.
before the deal, getting them
Exactly.
right to the place where you go, I can make a really sound financial decision for myself, for
Yeah.
my family, and I can build long-term wealth because I understand all the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you get in there, it's like drinking from a fire hose. Even
Yep.
after you've bought the property, you get it, let's say you get the good deal.
Mhm.
You're only at square one. It's not like that office building where you've got one person in here and maybe I check in with them every year or maybe 2 years because I've got a good long-term tenant. I mean,
Mhm.
this is like a business and people have to treat it like a business instead of just a passive investment.
No, I totally agree with that. With all the turnover, because it's short term, right? With all the turnover, you've got to have a plan. And really, you need a plan before you ever put a bid in on the property. You need to be
100%.
able to figure all that out before, right? Because as an investor, you know this, the single most important thing you can do is buy it right. Buy it.
100%. You make more money on the buy than you do on the sell,
Absolutely.
right? So they say that sometimes you can really make a killing on the sell, but but at the same time, get your buying right, and then
Yeah.
you're going to have a lot better chance. It's all about reducing risk, right?
Yeah.
How can I reduce
Totally.
my risk? Get everything in line so that I can succeed and I can go on to the next and go on to the next. How can I get my management in place? How can I get my cleaning in place? How can I make sure that I'm on all the platforms? Um, there's just so many different variables. And unfortunately, like people who buy, say, a big multi-tenant office building or a retail building, that's all they do. They're very sophisticated in that asset class. They can go in, make a good deal, get a good cash flow, and really do well. Vacation homes is more, I don't want to say an unsophisticated, but it's somebody who's like that family who wants that vacation home, or it's that mom and pa who want that place up in the mountains that they can go to maybe a week out of the year and then be renting it the rest of the time.
Right.
There's just a different thought process that goes into investing with that type of person as somebody who's doing it for a living in bigger asset classes.
Right.
But what I'm trying to do is say, hey guys, I want to teach you how to think like these guys over here, how to bridge that so you can go and have that same level of sophistication, reduce your risk, maximize your opportunities and your income, and then make good investment deals.
Yeah, you reduce your risk by buying it right, but you also reduce your risk by getting educated. Talk a little bit about what your book covers. So if somebody's thinking about buying an investment property and making it into a short-term rental, why would they want to read your book?
Well, Vacation Property Secrets takes you from square one all the way through the entire process, not just through the buying process.
Right.
It does go through the buying process. So it shows you how to dissect an income, how to do a cash flow, how to do pro formas, understand what a capitalization rate is so you can get your returns, understand what leveraging that property out can do to your returns. But after it gets you to the deal, it also takes you through the next steps, the next processes. Okay, now that you're here, what do I need to do here, here, here along the way so that when you're doing and going through the process, I don't want to let you go right after you've made the deal in the book. I want to help you make the deal, understand the components behind the deal, and then go execute, because all of a sudden you just bought a business when you're buying short-term vacation rentals. Now, there's a lot of options, A and B. Do I want to self-manage? Do I want to bring in outside management? Do I want to be in charge of my cleaning people? There's so many choices you're going to make along that way that you got to figure out. But the book takes you through those and goes, here are your options and what's good for you, right? Because sometimes I might not have the time, and I don't have the time to manage. We've got a whole bunch of holdings down in Costa Rica, and I don't have time to be managing it, but I've got an incredible manager down in Costa Rica who handles everything for me.
That's cool. So I would think one of the advantages to somebody buying and reading your book would be that they figure out that you actually have to work this thing backwards, right? You really have to go to, okay, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to rent it out and I want this amount of income. In order to get there, I have leverage costs, I have furnishing costs, I have management fees, I have closing costs, I have all these things that I have to factor into getting to this target. And so I'm guessing that by you educating them on what that target looks like and how you get there, they can then turn around and sort of reverse engineer it and go back and go, okay, so I really need to buy that property for $50,000 less than I originally thought in order to get to this number.
You couldn't be more spot on. I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, we have our own thresholds, because I've got a private equity company that all we do is buy vacation homes, but we have our thresholds that things have to meet. So when we're looking at a property, I have to analyze and go, okay, what do I want my returns to be?
Right.
So I won't buy anything that doesn't pencil out. After you do a pro forma, you figure out how much income it could generate, what the occupancy is going to be, what's the net, and then what are the expenses, get to that NOI, the net operating income. And then you look at that purchase price and go, okay, based on this cash that I have left after all my expenses, and then this much of a purchase price that I need to pay, what's going to be my rate of return on the property?
Right.
And if it doesn't pencil out at 11% or more for me, it's gone.
Right. And that's different for everybody, right? Because, you're going to have some people that 5% does it. You're going to have some people that can't do it for 5%. They have to have 15 or whatever that number is. But at least with your book, they can figure that out ahead of time. And then, like I said, reverse engineer and go back and go, okay, we need to pay a lot less for this property, or we need to figure something out between here and here to get to this number.
100%. And I'll tell you this too, and I got on my website at vacationpropertyexpertnetwork.com, I've got a free worksheet there. I've got a pro forma there that they can download. It's free. Take it, use it, but it'll help you estimate all those different scenarios, from the money coming in to the money going out to that NOI to what that actual cap rate is. It's
Right.
free. It's sitting there. I just want it to be in people's hands because, like I said, the biggest tragedy, and even being in the business right now, the thing that's most frustrating is so many people are in this industry not quite knowing what they're doing. Or they got in when it was really easy to do. And now that it's not so easy to do, they're struggling.
Yeah.
And when the group struggles, it creates problems for everybody. So for me, if I can just help people elevate their game, I want to be surrounded by incredible people all the time. And I don't care how many it is. You know, the world's an abundant place. There's plenty of room for all of us, right?
Right.
So why wouldn't we help people succeed in what we're doing and be surrounded by incredible professionals who...
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.